Some people don't love you, they love the way you make them feel. And the moment you stop feeding that need, they'll leave. So let me ask you, how much of your kindness is just you begging to be kept? I remember sitting across from a friend I had poured my whole heart into, the kind of friend I thought would be sitting next to me at my wedding, at my hardest moments, at the hospital bed, if life ever knocked me down. I had spent years showing up for this person. I was the one who listened to every 3 a.m. phone call, who sat silently on the other end of the line while they cried, who rearranged my plans just to make sure they didn't feel alone. And then one day, I simply said, I can't make it. I didn't give an excuse. I just couldn't show up that day. And do you know what happened? Silence. That's it. No anger, no argument, just silence. A silence that never really ended. It was like my worth expired the moment I stopped performing. And that broke something inside me. It forced me to ask, was this friendship or was I just a service? I think a lot of us fall into this trap. We believe that kindness is love, that kindness will earn us a seat at the table, that if we are kind enough, gentle enough, patient enough, they will stay. But sometimes kindness isn't love. Sometimes kindness is just the currency that people spend when it's convenient for them. And here's the uncomfortable part: we let it happen. Because deep down, some part of us believes that being needed is the same as being valued, that if we keep giving, we'll never be left behind. But the psychology is very clear. People who grow up feeling unseen, unworthy, or conditionally loved often develop this compulsive need to overgive. It's how we try to control rejection. We convince ourselves that if we stay useful, we stay safe. If we keep giving, we stay wanted. But that's a lie we tell ourselves to avoid the grief of realizing that some people only love what we can do for them, not who we are. And sometimes what we call kindness is just fear wearing a polite face. Fear that if we stop, we'll lose everything. Fear that if we say no, they'll walk away and never look back. And you know what? Some of them will, and that will hurt like hell. But the deep, soul-cracking truth is this: kindness that comes from a place of fear is not kindness. It's self-abandonment. It's self-erasure. Real kindness, the kind that's rooted in courage, not desperation, it never costs you yourself. And maybe the bravest thing you can do is to stop being kind to everyone and start being kind to you. There was a long season in my life where I believed that being soft, being available, being endlessly kind was the only way to be loved. I was terrified of being seen as too much, too complicated, too cold. So I worked overtime to be the easy one, the one who never got upset, who always said yes, who could be called at any hour and would never make you feel bad about it. I bent myself into shapes that didn't even feel human anymore, just to avoid the crushing fear of being told you've changed. Or worse, you're not who I thought you were. I became so addicted to being liked that I didn't realize I was slowly disappearing. And you know what's brutal? People love you when you're easy. People adore you when you're convenient. They will flood you with affection, as long as you don't take up too much space, as long as you don't need too much, as long as you don't break the unspoken rule, don't make them uncomfortable. I was terrified of losing people, so I kept giving, kept shrinking, kept swallowing every moment I wanted to say, I'm not okay with this. I wore politeness like armor. I let people walk over me because I thought if I stood up, I'd be standing alone. Psychologists call this fawning. It's a trauma response, just like fight or flight. It's the act of people-pleasing to keep the peace, to stay connected, to avoid abandonment. For so many of us, fawning isn't a habit, it's survival. Somewhere along the way, we learned that love was something we had to earn by being agreeable, by being silent, by being less. But here's what life keeps teaching me. People who benefit from your silence will always call your boundaries selfish. They will say you've changed. They will say you've become cold. But what they really mean is you've stopped letting me use you. You will outgrow the version of yourself who was afraid to be inconvenient. You will outgrow the need to apologize for having limits. You will outgrow the fear of being called too much, because you will finally realize that the right people will never find your fullness overwhelming. It took me years to understand that disappointing someone is not the same as harming them. Saying, "I can't," is not cruelty. Saying, "This doesn't work for me," is not betrayal. Saying, "I'm not available," is not me being cold. It's me being whole. The fear of being too much or too cold is just a story that was written by people who only loved the version of you they could control. You don't have to keep reading from that script. You don't have to keep playing small to keep people comfortable. And maybe the real kindness isn't being endlessly available. Maybe the real kindness is the one you offer yourself when you stop showing up for people who never show up for you. The most beautiful thing I've ever learned is this. Sometimes the kindest thing you can do is to let someone be disappointed. Sometimes the bravest thing you can do is to let them leave, because the people who can't love you with boundaries don't actually love you. They love your compliance. And you are not here to be compliant. You are here to be real, to be whole, to be enough. I used to think betrayal was obvious. I thought it would come with fireworks, raised voices, slam doors, dramatic exits. I thought I'd feel it in my gut immediately. But the betrayal that cuts the deepest doesn't walk through the front door yelling. It creeps in quietly, disguised as friendship. It sounds like soft laughter, like familiar footsteps, like someone saying, "I'm always here for you," until one day they aren't. I once had someone in my life who made me feel special. They always came to me with their problems, always told me I was the only one who really understood them. I wore that like a badge. I thought it meant I was irreplaceable. But what I didn't see, what I refused to see, was that I was never their first choice. I was their backup. I was their comfort station when everything else fell apart. I was plan B. It's a painful thing to realize you were someone's convenience, not their commitment. It's even more painful to realize you trained them to treat you that way, by always being available, by never asking for anything back, by accepting the crumbs they offered like it was a feast. Psychologists talk about something called instrumental relationships, where people connect with you only because of what you can provide, not because of who you are. These are the people who text when they need a favor, who remember you when their life is heavy, but forget you when their life is light. And what's tricky is they often seem like they care. They say all the right words. They show up just enough to keep you hoping. But hope can be a heavy chain when it keeps you tied to people who never plan to stay. What no one tells you is that betrayal can wear a smile. It can wear the face of a friend. It can sound like, "You're such a good person. I don't know what I'd do without you." And that's the worst part. You believe it. You want to believe it, because the alternative means you have to confront the fact that you've been used. There's a brutal kind of grief that comes when you realize you weren't loved, you were useful. That you weren't chosen, you were available. But here's the thing. You don't have to keep proving your worth to people who only value what you can do for them. Love that must be earned with sacrifice is not love. It's manipulation. I know we all want to see the good in people. I know we don't want to walk around suspicious, guarded, angry, but protecting your heart doesn't make you bitter, it makes you awake. You can be kind and still say, I will not let you use me. You can be generous and still say, this relationship is not mutual. You can love people deeply and still say, if I have to keep performing to stay in your life, I'm no longer interested in being here. The most soul-shaking truth I've ever learned is this: if you have to earn your place in someone's life every single day, you're not loved, you're tolerated. And you were never born to be tolerated. You were born to be celebrated, to be valued, to be seen without conditions. Sometimes the greatest act of self-respect is walking away from the people who smile at you but quietly drain you. Sometimes the most powerful choice is choosing yourself when they only ever chose your kindness. I remember the first time I said no to someone I truly cared about. Not a soft no, not an I'm sorry but maybe later kind of no. No, this was a firm, full stop, unapologetic no. I had rehearsed it in my head 100 times. My stomach twisted. My palms were sweating. My voice trembled. But when I finally said it, it was like I had set something on fire inside me, a fire I didn't know I needed. And the fallout? They left, just like that. They didn't fight for me, they didn't ask why, they just disappeared. And I wish I could tell you I felt powerful right away. I didn't. I felt crushed. I felt disposable. I felt like my no had proven my worst fear, that I was only loved when I said yes. But over time, something unexpected happened. I realized I was still standing. I was still breathing. I had survived the storm I was so afraid of, and in that survival, I found something I had never truly held before: myself. We are so conditioned to think that anger and refusal are things to be ashamed of, that saying no makes us difficult, ungrateful, selfish. Especially if you grew up in a household where love came with conditions, where being good meant being agreeable, no feels like the ultimate betrayal. But here's what I've learned: no is not the problem. It's the fear of what will happen after the no that controls us. Psychology teaches us that anger is a boundary emotion. It's not evil, it's not dangerous. It's the body's way of saying, something here is not okay. Something here needs to change. But so many of us have been taught to swallow our anger, to package our pain in polite words, to dress our rage up as silence. Because we are terrified that if we say no, we will lose love, lose connection, lose safety. But sometimes no is the medicine. Sometimes no is the door you have to close so you can finally breathe in your own house again. Sometimes no is not the thing that destroys you. It's the thing that saves you. I've sat with people who told me they felt guilty for saying no to their family, to their friends, to people they've loved for years. They say, but I don't want to hurt them. And I gently ask, but what about the ways you've been hurting yourself? We talk about healing like it's always soft, like it's always quiet, like it's always gentle. But sometimes healing is rage. Sometimes healing is standing up and saying, I will not. Sometimes healing is walking away without offering an explanation, without trying to soften the blow, without carrying the guilt that was never yours to begin with. And yes, it will cost you something. It may cost you people. It may cost you relationships you thought you'd have forever. But here's what it will give you. It will give you you. It will give you back your voice. It will give you back your peace. It will give you back the parts of yourself you've been giving away for scraps of love. The healing rage of saying no is not about becoming cruel. It's about becoming whole. It's about finally believing that your worth was never supposed to hang on whether or not you kept everyone else comfortable. The most beautiful, untold secret is this: You can love people and still say no. You can care deeply and still draw a hard line. You can be kind and still refuse to abandon yourself. Because if saying no means losing people who only stayed because you always said yes, let them go. Their exit is not your failure, it's your freedom. There comes a moment, and maybe it sneaks up on you after years of exhaustion, or maybe it hits you in one devastating, crystal clear instant, when you finally realize, I've been choosing to be used because I'm terrified I won't be loved. I've lived that moment. I've sat in that unbearable silence after the phone stops ringing, after the favors go unanswered, after the people you once rearranged your life for vanish the second you ask for something back. It's a lonely moment, but it's also an awakening. I had to ask myself a brutal question. Have I ever actually chosen to be loved? Or have I just consistently chosen to be useful, hoping that love would come later as a reward? For years, I thought being valuable meant being needed. I thought being wanted meant always being available. I thought being worthy meant being the one who never says no, who never makes demands, who never takes up too much space. And the truth? People loved what I could do for them. They loved how I made them feel. They loved the version of me that made their life easier. But me, the me who had bad days, the me who needed support, the me who sometimes had to pull away to breathe, they didn't love her. They didn't even stick around to meet her. Psychologists talk about something called conditional regard. It's when love is given or withheld based on how well you perform, how well you behave, how well you meet someone else's needs. And if you grow up with this kind of love, you often spend your entire adult life confusing being used with being loved. You begin to think, if I stop being useful, I will stop being loved. If I stop saying yes, they will leave. If I stop saving them, I will become invisible. But here's the truth I wish someone had told me sooner. Love that requires you to be exhausted, love that needs you to be small, love that demands you sacrifice yourself to maintain it, is not love. It's convenience, it's utility, it's survival for them, but it's slow death for you. You don't exist to be a lifeboat for everyone else while you're drowning. You don't exist to be a mirror that only reflects other people's importance. You don't exist to be a soft landing for people who would never catch you if you fell. You deserve the kind of love that sees you, all of you, and stays. The kind of love that doesn't shrink you, doesn't guilt you, doesn't need to consume you to feel full. You deserve the kind of love that feels like home, not like a job. And maybe the scariest thing you will ever do is to stop proving your worth, to stop auditioning for friendships, to stop overgiving in relationships, to stop answering calls from people who only ever reach out when they need something. Because when you stop being used, the people who were only there for the parts of you that served them will quietly walk away. Let them. When you stop performing, the crowd will thin. Let it. You will lose people when you choose to be loved, not used, but you will find yourself. And that is a trade worth making. Every time. The most honest, soul-piercing truth I can offer you is this. You are not loved because you are useful. You are loved because you are you. And if someone can't love you without your endless yeses, they never really loved you at all. Choose to be loved, not used. Choose to be seen, not managed. Choose to be valued, not consumed. Because the life you are building, the peace you are protecting, the love you are worthy of, it can't grow in the soil of self-betrayal. It only grows when you finally say, I will not be used anymore. I choose me now. Kindness is beautiful, but unconditional kindness without boundaries is self-betrayal. It's time to stop pouring yourself out for people who only bring empty cups. Be kind, be soft, but most of all, be whole. And remember, the right people will never make you beg to matter.